Why are Americans paying income taxes to a federal government that doesn't seem to really care about Americans? Our money is sent to Ukraine and Israel, while veterans are homeless in the United States, sleeping on the streets. Same question that U.S. Congressman Thomas Massie just asked this week. He asked the very same thing and ignited a firestorm on the internet with this tweet. He posted this: "The federal income tax was unconstitutional for most of our country's existence. The founders of this country would never have agreed to it. We should repeal it," he said. It's been viewed millions of times now, and has a lot of people raising questions about paying taxes. Someone who's made a career out of battling the IRS and not paying taxes and teaching other people how to not pay taxes is a man by the name of Peymon Mottahedeh. He's the founder of the president of the Freedom Law School and the president of the Freedom Law School. And he hasn't paid taxes in over 30 years. So we thought, let's talk to him. Let's find out what exactly is going on here. Peymon, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Clayton.
So, okay, for a lot of our viewers sitting there saying, wait a second, he hasn't paid taxes in over 30 years. How is he still walking around? How is he not locked up? Why did you decide, first off, at the beginning, why did you decide to start not paying taxes? What was the catalyst for you?
I heard a talk radio like yours back in 1992 about income tax being voluntary. Went to a seminar, and the person that showed me the laws, the tax laws, like the Internal Revenue Code, and I said, well, why, as a freedom-loving libertarian person, I'm paying this tax I don't have to pay? So I just stopped, and I started teaching Americans that if you want to get our country back, to elect people like Thomas Massie into Congress to represent us, the American people, not the big banks and corporations. Let's not give our money to our enemies and keep it for ourselves and give some of it to restore freedom in America by electing good people to represent us in government.
So how does this work? There's going to be a lot of people that are going to say, wait a second, I've been paying taxes all these years. I've been working so hard, giving up 35% of my paycheck every year, paying income taxes. I get nervous every time the tax season comes around. I've got to scrape together my pennies and all of this stuff. And you've been doing this for over 30 years. What is the foundation, I guess, the basis for which you say it's illegal, you don't have to pay them? Like, what are you basing that on?
Actually, the income tax is completely legal and constitutional. But the way it's written, it applies only to citizens and residents of Washington, D.C., federal workers, and contractors. They just deceived us to believe when they use the term United States and tax law. They make a thing here in the Internal Revenue Code that means the 50 states individual, the 50 state citizen, and that is not the case. The person they have jurisdiction over here is Washington, D.C. related, because the federal government is a 51st separate government from the 50 states and countries in our union. So we just didn't realize that. We just assumed that, oh, it applies to me. And that's how they've done that. Since 1913, has been this way.
And this is what Congressman Massey is talking about, that for 98% of Americans, this doesn't apply to you. Like, you don't.
Correct.
For 2% who happen to live in the Washington, D.C. metro area, and you're a federal employee, then I guess it does apply to you. Is that what we're talking about here?
Correct. And most of us can simply stop voluntarily paying our enemies in Washington, D.C., who are wasting our money and doing corruption and cover up their criminals, just like it was done in the Soviet Union, where I grew up in the 60s, saw this big empire eventually collapse. And that's what's going on also. IRS is collapsing of its own weight from within.
And to be clear, you moved from Iran a number of decades ago and became an American citizen. And why did you leave Iran, and what were you hoping to find in the United States?
Well, I came here to get educated. Then a revolution happened in Iran in 1979, I ended up saying. But I always admired America, land of the free, home of the brave. In Iran, we could not criticize the king, the Shah of Iran, and if you did, you could be kidnapped. No one knows where you're at. You could be tortured, executed. So here in America, land of the free, we're having political prisoners like we had over there over January 6th, because we protested against our vote being gone. No longer a government of by and for we the people, and then put us to jail when we object. So that's why I'm doubling up. I'm saying we got to just stop paying our enemies. There's no law requiring us to. Look, I'm not in prison. IRS knows me. We've been in court many times. I've beaten the IRS, myself and my students, in tax court, in the federal district court, and the whole thing is based upon hoopla and bluff to American people that the corrupt major media promotes.
So when you've gone to court, just take me through this. You stopped paying your taxes. How long after you stopped paying your taxes did the IRS come after you and try to bring you to court? How long was that? A year, 2 years?
Oh, in 1994, they had me under criminal investigation for a year and a half. Then they found nothing on me, so the case went civil. They went try to do a tax court thing I did with them. Then after that, they came after me in 2003. Claimed I was the abusive tax shelter promoter. They closed that in 2016. 2009, they put over $600,000 on me. And after 2 years, I had beat them with the IRS appeals office and tax court agreeing with me. In 2006, they had the criminal investigation trying to get the record of the hotel, had a big freedom event, and who attended. And I sued them in the federal district court, and they were forced to withdraw that investigation and that summons. So I've been with them in court many times. And of course, the major media doesn't want to cover this stuff because as long as American people are blind, they don't know what's going on, they'll be good little sheep slaves to support and fund this criminality in the federal government.
So for our viewers out there probably saying to themselves, my God, I don't want to have to deal with all this court back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They're going to come after me. They're going to try to lawfare me, which is, bleed me dry with legal fees and lawyer fees and all of these things so that I might as well I'd just be better off paying my taxes so I don't have to pay all these legal fees to lawyers and everything.
That's not the case. According to IRS's best estimates, there's about 80 million non-filers, people who do not file income tax returns. I don't see 80 million people in prison or paycheck or bank account taken. It's a myth that the media tells you that, if you don't file, you're going to go to prison. So put that 1040 signature form rope around your neck, under oath, swear you owe the IRS money. You deny yourself the right to a trial to challenge the IRS. When under oath, you say you owe them money. If you don't fill out that form, you owe them no money. And the IRS has chosen since 2017 to basically completely leave non-filers alone, according to the reports of the IRS auditors.
So they'll just leave you alone. They just won't even come after you.
That's what the IRS decided to do. As amazing as it sounds, they did not used to do that back in the 70s to 2010s. But in 2012, a collapse of the IRS started, which the government auditors reports show that, it's like Soviet Union is going to just disappear. But we're going to expedite that and fund freedom instead.
You have a lot of detractors online. I'm sure you're aware of that. People who say that you're crazy. People who say that what you're doing is illegal, of course. People say that you are paying your taxes, that you're using staff members' names to file your taxes, and that you're not a lawyer, that you're an accountant. So there's a lot of people going after you online. What do you say to some of their criticisms of you about this? Are they trying to bring you down? Do they have any legitimate concerns? What do you say to these people?
It's just simply not true. I have not filed an income tax for over 30 years as a matter of principle. I am a freedom fighter first, Clayton. I'm not here for the money. I'm here because, go back to Iran, what do I have over there? Here is the last bastion of freedom on earth, where the system recognizes our rights come from our creator. We're born with it. So it's just simply not true. But, they always put out lies about you, because if they're not put me in jail for not paying income tax openly, for teaching Americans not to pay income tax openly, they cannot do that. So
Right.
what they can do, they can just try to sow some innuendo and hearsay, call you this, that, the other. That's all they can do.
Yeah, they've thrown out things like that you have a law school, but you never filed for a license for this school. And
Correct. Because I don't need to. We don't need a permission from government to teach. Moses and Jesus and founding fathers got no permission before they did what they did. You just start exercising your right to free speech, to press, to assembly, share with the American people what's going on, and try to clean up the government that we got back to the vision and plan of the founding fathers, a government of, by, and for the people. People, once again, this is not a school to make money. It's actually a movement to have America be free once again, Clayton.
Okay, so let's talk about then some of the people you've helped, because I'd be curious about this. So you haven't paid taxes for over 30 years. You have this school that teaches people how to do this. And of course, there's criticism of that. People have said, you're not a lawyer, so how can you do this? You're unlicensed. How can you do this? So talk about some of the people that you've helped. Do you have any some examples of people who've followed your path here and gone through it? Has the IRS bothered these people? Have they come after these people at all?
Sure. One of them is a man named Joseph Bannister, who used to be in the 1990s a gun-carrying IRS criminal investigation agent, special agent. And he heard about me and contacted me and investigated the stuff I'm saying about income tax. He wrote a book about income tax fraud and said, Peymon, you guys are right. And he wrote a letter to the commissioner of the IRS, along with his report on income tax fraud, 90 pages, said, look, I took an oath to uphold the Constitution. Show me where this book is wrong, otherwise I have to quit. I cannot do this thing. And they said, get lost. We're not going to talk to you. Then they tried to put him in prison in 2005, not for having not filed and paid income taxes, which he stopped in year 2000, but for other stuff they tried to get him, and the jury acquitted him. And he has not filed and paid income tax for over 23 years also.
It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. And it sounds like, God, there's got to be a catch here, right? I mean, but you have Congressman Thomas Massie saying that this was unconstitutional up until a couple of years ago, and we should repeal this because, legally there should be no reason for Americans to have to pay this. There sounds like there's got to be a loophole. What are we missing here? Is there a loophole? Is there a catch? If you suddenly have tens of thousands of Americans that just stop paying their income taxes, I mean, what's going to happen here?
We're going to do the same thing that happened in the Soviet Union. If you watch the videos of where the 91 Soviet Union collapsed, the Russian people banded together, hand in hand, and stopped supporting the system. They recognize that this brutal dictatorship is really bluff, and they outnumber them 100,000 to 1. And same thing here. There's only 31 U.S. tax court judges. If we don't file, if we start withholding on our paycheck, which is available for free on our website, freedomlawschool.org, they cannot get all of us. There's 80 million non-filers, and they're just going to collapse because we outnumber them, just like happened in the Soviet Union, and we can get our country back once again. The problem is they have controlled the corrupt major media that brainwashes this people's mind for decades to believe IRS is the powerful thing when it's actually a Wizard of Oz. And everything I'm telling you, people can see documentation from government's own reports and official legal websites at freedomlawschool.org for free.
Now, we do know that the IRS we've covered it on our show, hiring 81,000 new agents. They are sending out massive AI-backed letters to individuals telling them that they owe back taxes. They're hoping to raise tens of millions of dollars with this strategy, sending out letters to people and trying to get them to pay back taxes for people who haven't paid. Again, they're hiring all of these additional IRS agents. It does sound scary. And if they do haul individuals in front of the tax courts and do arrest individuals to make examples of them, because that the government seeks retribution, and they will do this. Just look at January 6th. And the Biden administration could very likely use the Department of Justice to go after people like that and make an example of them. Legally, I mean, I know you're not a lawyer, right? But you study law deeply. What would they try to pin on these individuals in court? I mean, what would they say about these individuals who they try to make an example of and try to put them away for years?
Well, first of all, it's a false that IRS will come after you if you don't file an income tax, like this cartoon, we're looking at shows. It's the major media's creation that the IRS is this powerful thing that they are not. So, but if they do come after you, what we do, we have petitions on our website for free at Freedom Law School that has the law quoted and attached that we send to Congressman and say, look, either stop the IRS, DOJ, and some corrupt judges from misapplying income tax to the American people in the 50 states, or show me where I'm wrong and I will humbly pay my fair share of taxes. We've done this thousands of times. People have done it many more on their own, and not once one lawmaker, congressman, senator showed us we're wrong. If they ever take us to a jury, we say, I wrote my congressman. It's all based on U.S. government's official legal websites. None of them told me I'm wrong, obviously because I'm right, because it's the law. And with that, you can't go to prison. You'll be free.
Well, this is fascinating. I mean, I don't know. We're going to see if there's you create a movement here. I mean, we've been covering this angle. I've been fascinated about this story for years. I will tell you. And there's been documentaries made about this, books written about it. Obviously, you're teaching people about it, and maybe this is a wake up call to our federal government to start paying attention to Americans. Maybe if the money that they're receiving was actually reinvested in the United States, and we saw that our roads were fixed, our bridges were fixed, our schools were safe, our border was closed and protected, you and I probably wouldn't even be having this conversation. Would you agree?
That's my hope. But the way they're going to listen to us is we do not pay voluntarily income tax anymore and support people like Anthony Hudson, who was on your show 2 weeks ago, who's running for Congress, who is a good, honest, average American who wants to represent us. But if we don't support people like Anthony Hudson, with our dollars, they cannot get into office to represent us. The big banks, corporations, lobbies own Congress, the federal government. So if we give our money to our enemies, how can we have any money to support ourselves, our families, and the people to represent us in Congress? It ain't going to happen. So we have a solution that will work. In Iran, where I grew up, I saw in 1979, people got on the streets, they striked. They just simply striked, and the government eventually collapsed. If we eventually stop working at Amazon and Walmart, say, no, I will not work unless you let me stop withholding on my paycheck, those big corporations will also come down to their knees and eventually say, okay, I'll let you not to have withholding from your paycheck, because that's how the system relies upon. These big corporations are stealing from your paycheck, and now you have to get it back by filling out a 1040 confession from under oath that you don't even understand what the heck you're signing. So this is going to be the way eventually we can truly have a realistic plan of having America restore to freedom once again, Clayton.
Fascinating. Well, I encourage our viewers to educate themselves. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an accountant. So go out there and deep dive this, research this, study the Constitution, research what Congressman Thomas Massie has been saying, and all the materials that Peymon just mentioned here on the show. Peymon, we appreciate you joining us. It's certainly eye-opening, and I'd love to follow this story over the next few years here. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Peymon.
Thanks for having me, Clayton.
I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. YouTube thinks that you'll actually like this next video right here. It's personalized based on your own viewing habits. So if you watch the video, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think about it, and we will see you next time, everyone.